We are recording. This is the wallet meeting, right?
Yep, wallet development and testing.
Yeah, so usually I see some, I show some stuff that are not strictly related to wallet, but this time it's a wallet feature. So basically, DAPI is a browser, but it's also a wallet, so we can send revs to anyone. So basically, until now, it worked only with rev address. So basically, you have to know the address of where you want to send funds, and you have to input it in this window. So what I have added is the possibility to rely on the name system to be registered as a, how can I say it? So basically, if you own a name, people will be able to send you funds without knowing your web address. They will just have to know what name you own.
Right.
For example, it can be your first name and your last name. And basically, they will be able to use the name system to send you funds. So let me show in this section, when you send rev, you can put the full rev address, or you can also type. So basically here we have a, so basically there is a bet. So this seems to be someone who bought that name on the beta network. So I will send funds to bet. So the address is 112QS. So accounts and rev bet. And so what happens is that DAPI searches the names it has locally, and it found a record that is called bet. So a record is kind of a synonym of name. It's kind of the same thing. So basically, it found bet, and it found the corresponding address. So I can simply send 20 revs to bet.
Okay.
And this feature could also be, I'm not sure about making it available in this section ici, but basically, for example, this is the RChain website on DAPI, which is an IP application. And basically, any website, you could be able to send funds to them because there must be a public key that is associated with the name. So there could be a tip feature here. So it could be very easy to use, but I'm not sure about putting it here. Maybe it's safer just to have this feature in the accounts section right now.
Okay.
But basically that's it. So I can send revs to RChain also, or to DAPI, or to any name that exists. No, DAPI does not exist. Like DAP, no. So basically, I think there was a okay, there was an incomplete get name, so I have to wait for the next one. But yes, so that's it. So it's very simpler, and basically it's a feature that other platforms are developing. I think the Ethereum name service has such a feature. So that's it.
Yeah, that's great. So this is like the Ethereum name service.
Yep. So basically, names now on the next release will serve two purposes. The first one being web browsing. So basically, you can link your name to a server. This is an IP application, or a file on the blockchain. So this is a DApp, and you can also use your name as a way to receive funds from friends or clients.
Yeah, that having these types of features to make things more simple for everyday users they're going to feel more comfortable sending it to, a name is going to be easier. So this is a great add-on.
Yeah, that's good because when you copy an address, you're never sure that you did not forget a character, especially
Right.
for new users. Uh, it might be frightening to manipulate long strings like this. They are not used to it.
Right.
So this will be a cool feature.
Yeah, that's great. Good job. And how is the beta testing going? Do you is are you, is it going well, or are people using it?
Oh
Or
yes, so I had a Chinese user who just downloaded the API. So basically, he reported a bug because simply the server went down. So I had to relaunch it.
Mhm.
But yes, finally, I think he succeeded to link his account. Um, he proposed that this section account is moved in the main menu here,
Okay.
and that also that it is renamed wallet
Mm.
because I think people are not very used to the account term, so maybe wallet is better.
Okay. All right. And now that you have the Chinese language version, that's probably will be get broader adoption in the Chinese community.
Yeah, I guess I don't know exactly the size of the Chinese community, but yes, I've been working on Chinese version also. So basically, you change the language, you reload, and so this is Chinese. So basically, some terms are not translated, but it's fine.
Hmm.
So I still have some few stuff to look at. But yes, Chinese release, so it's great. And basically, it will be ready for other languages if there is the need for another language like Japanese or
Right. Right.
Spanish or French. So that's great. All the setup is here for multi-language support. So a user helped me uh, translating. So it's great. It's all
Hmm.
free for me. So very cool community.
And how long do you anticipate the beta period uh, to go until you get to the live launch?
So I have posted a message on the API because yes, it's a good question because people want to own a name and to have it guaranteed for for 1 year and to be able to renew it.
Right.
So it's comprehensible, but the thing is that the name system right now is not complete. It lacks the possibility to send and to sell a name. So basically, putting a price. If I own Amazon, I can put a price like 1,000 revs, and anyone who accepts to buy it can buy it. Also, the pricing policy. So I have to think about what the prices will be for a given name. So I have to do basic calculations about the decent size for a DEP network and also the revenues it will represent. Um, but I have no number about how much people would build something on DAPI right now. So it's all very speculative.
Okay.
And also, yes, the renewal mechanism on the blockchain is not done at all right now on the DEP name system. So basically, when you have a name, you just keep it forever. So
Okay.
it is not the goal of DAPI because the name system is the source of income for DAPI network members to
Right.
maintain the network. So you have to have a yearly renewal. so it generates revenues for the IP network members. So you have to code this in Rolang because it's all blockchain based, of course.
Okay.
So there is 3 or 4 bricks that are not ready for the name system.
Okay. Great. Well, it's wonderful to see all the progress. So, welcome, Tomislav.
Hi.
Yeah, let me pull up the document we were discussing last week, the RChain Scala educational series. So let me.
Yeah, I added some of the stuff for to consider.
That was that's great to see it start to take shape, and you know. One thing I was thinking about is, this. Well, we'll see how much, as far as this name of this hour is wallet development testing. If we start to use this time more for reviewing, education and Scala education, this could be potentially rename this this hour from wallet to the education developer education working group or something like that. But we'll see how things develop. Great.
Yeah,
so
we can talk also something about languages that we are developing some bindings like JavaScript or Python. For example, now Will is working on JavaScript library that is for exchanges to connect to our node and read data that they need.
Okay.
So yeah, I agree that we can have.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about, so we have, here's the presentation topics. Do you want to see, maybe give a kind of a brief, so I guess the RChain project developer setup. So would each one of these Java 11 installation of Nix package, would each of those be individual demonstrations? Is that how you view it?
Yeah, maybe they're not. Each of these points are not like completely the same in amount of work, but yeah, it's really just one command that you'd run or something like that.
Oh, okay. So could you potentially have multiple topics in one session? So perhaps
Yeah.
it's RChain project developer setup. So in that setup, you can have multiple things. Okay.
Yeah. So in one session, at the end, you will able to compile the project and produce R node executable, and
Okay.
run directly your compiled code. So this is like one session, and we can split it in if we find out that some step is more complicated, we can talk about that. For example, this Nix package manager, it's very nice to work with. Like not only for working with Arnold or Scala. You can use it for any other development, or because it's very easy to install, like temporarily install some new library or new program.
Okay. Okay. Open with project with analogy. So I guess the idea was, so we want to create some type of presentation or demo, but have one of us, me or someone, do the presenting and record it. So do we want to use this time to start to go through the list here and start to familiarize ourselves with each of these, to kind of lay out what the demo, the presentation is going to be, the flow of it, so we can kind of work on what that end product is going to be? Are we there yet, or what do you see as our current next step?
So yeah, first I would like to create some kind of slides, right, or something
Okay.
that you can refer later, and maybe something that I can create in front, or directly, we can create notes like your notes in sessions, right? What you need to do to accomplish this.
Okay. Yeah, that would be helpful, to have it in print. And so if you create, slides, and then, so you can talk us through the slides, and then you have the, what we might do is record you giving the presentation. So I can review it a few times to get comfortable with it. And essentially I'd be kind of mimicking uh, what it is that you're doing, but making the changes, I think, that, from a user's perspective. So as I go to learn it, I'm like, oh, this would be helpful and that would be helpful, and I incorporate that into the presentation. So, I think it's, as we kind of work through it that way, have you creating the slides, do the demo to all of us, and we get that familiarity, and provide feedback, it'll start to take shape. That's kind of seeing how. So when we get to that, final product, it's polished. We feel like we've covered all the angles, answer the questions from the user perspective. At least that's kind of my vision of what hopefully what we can get to. Whether we get there or not, remains to be seen until we get user feedback. And then so another aspect was to have this session as so as we get the demonstrations. So okay, maybe back up here. So I think we get a few of these completed. So we have a series of 10 or X number completed, and then we have this kind of promotion, this rollout to the broader community, people on Discord and on Telegram. So say, hey, here's the RChain Scala educational video series. Start to watch it, and so people will start to go through the videos. And then as a support, we have this educational Scala education working group as the weekly session for them to come. And each session, each week, it's a different topic. So people come, they know that, okay, the first week of June it's going to be this topic, and I'm the user. Okay, I've gone through the videos, but I had a question on running Scala tests, so I'm going to be sure to go to that session and watch it. So I think that, Thomas Slav, that's what you were hopefully aiming for. So that's, I think, it's a matter of getting a series completed and kind of getting that engagement from the community, and then it's that build up. We want to get people engaged and want to come to the sessions. So, how all that's going to unfold remains to be seen, but I think that's is certainly the plan. I think the marketing and promotion piece of it, and I think we might want to time this along with what's happening in the broader RChain world. As far as the enthusiasm and engagement. People right now, because it's not on an exchange, people are kind of waiting for something big to happen with RChains to get more involved, get the higher performance to start. That's my assumption. I just get a sense there's not a lot of people actively working on building dApps. Get a sense that they're kind of waiting. So perhaps we can use this time to kind of work through the preparation and get to develop the educational series, so we can time it so when there's something big happening in the broader RChain world, we can roll this out right behind it. So as the excitement and enthusiasm builds, right? So it's going up. People are like, "Hey, can't wait!" It's we're going to be trading on an exchange here. There's a date set for that. So we're kind of uh, uh, right on the coattails of that. Say, okay, so when this big event happens and we're changing on the on exchange, we're going to be rolling out the RChain Scala educational video series. So people's like, oh wow, they're on exchange, rolling out education series. You get a sense that, and it just kind of amplifies the messaging. So that's my thoughts on has from a marketing and publicity angle. But this is the time right now where it's a little bit quiet. We kind of work through the mechanics and work on these things. So yeah. So and I know, Tomislav, you're a busy guy. You're working on the last finalized block and everything. So, hey, if you're able to work on these slides, that's great if you're able to fit that in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also thinking, how can we get some help, because, for example, this last finalized state is also like a big task,
Oh, sure.
So we need to change part of the Casper also, and we were discussing this yesterday.
Okay, so and that was the point that I was kind of getting to, because I don't, I try to be conscientious about who is working on what and the burden of the level of work that's on their shoulders. So I know Gurinder, he's active in a lot of other aspects of RChain. Who do you see other than yourself that might be able to contribute to helping us, create some slides or material?
Oh, for now, Will and NatZipper are working on the project. So
Okay.
I'm trying to create some kind of better way to communicate between developers, right? So we can have more separation or better abstraction, so we can say we have this part of the project that we need this functionality, and we can create some kind of interface or like a backbone for this functionality that we need, and we can say, oh, this can be done by anyone, right? You don't need to really know all the details, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now this is more difficult because everything is more compact. So for example, to create this last finalized state, it's very difficult because we have very strict procedure how node start up. It's checking the blocks that it needs. It gets the dependencies, replay, and now if we want to change this the whole workflow, it's very difficult because one part of the program accepts something that is completely on another level of abstraction. So this is like the first thing that I would like to communicate. How can we destructure the program and have this more modular approach? And I'm not saying that I know all of the answers. I also want to ask questions. If someone else see like a better way to do it. Yeah.
Well, let's make that one of the episodes for the educational series. Is this walking through of this the compartmentalization of the project with the goal that other people will be able to work on specific feature sets. So, I think this is great in kind of telling the story. It's the, for me personally, understanding motivations and philosophies that, it's like, we're here at this point in time, but how did you get here? You're making all these decisions at this point in time, but what are these, why are you making decisions? What's your motivation? So, you start from the past, the history of like, well, this is how it was. Everything was kind of bundled together, and in order to create last finalized state, you had to go through all of these, aspects in order just to get to do this one thing. So that's where we were. So the idea was, hey, let's compartmentalize. So that was the motivation to get us to where we are. And what was the outcome was like, okay, now things are, they're separated. And now in the broader user community, people are going to say, hey, I'd really like to be able to do this one thing. And it's really important for my DApp that I'm working on. And so much so that I'd be willing to contribute, to the community to help develop it. And it's like, okay, well, guess what? Because of how we've structured this compartmentalization, you're now able to do that. If that particular feature is important to you, we've organized GitHub to where that you've got a branch that's based on features, and you can go to that feature branch in order to work on that project. And it kind of tells that story of how things were, what was the motivation, and how we got to where we are now, and what they can do with it. So that, I think that's kind of a storyline that we can talk about. And I think gets people more engaged. So we can have that as a slide. That kind of sequence of what we just kind of discussed. And I think it's identifying things that we're doing that can be turned into content. So I think, and I guess I think with kind of a marketing brain in promotion, it's, it's all about content. And all of these activities that we're doing and we're engaged in, we don't realize it, but this is content. And it's taking what we're doing and repurposing it for and creating, using it to create value to the broader community. Because what we're doing, even this discussion, we're recording it and people are going to be watching it, but we're creating content. And this has value to other people, in some aspect. So as we go into this, RChain Scala educational video series, we go into it with the eye on, hey, what we're actually doing in all this work that we're doing, we're creating content. So now let's capture it. We want to capture this stuff, recognize it, and like, okay, this is good. This would be important and value to somebody out there at some point in time. We capture that. We create a slide video. We talk about it, and we put it in, somewhere, somehow in the story. And now it's there. It is for somebody. So this is kind of what the effort is in this educational series, is recognizing what we're doing as content and how we want to capture it, create a slide, or notes or somewhere, capture it, and then where does it fit in to the story that we're telling. So that's how I think this is how what we're doing is creating this structure and creating the story. So
this is definitely a content for new developers, right? Because we want to attract new developers on RChain project, and
right.
So this is why I'm thinking about we should talk about Scala, because we expect Scala developers, or at least I'm also I'm new to Scala, so I'm now I'm quickly quickly learning Scala from all the other languages, and now I'm trying to adapt with all these concepts. And in Scala there is a lot of concepts that you need to understand, and especially now Scala 3 is coming out, and there is a lot of changes. And and the whole Scala ecosystem is evolving, you know, all the time. So I would like to talk about, you know, what, as you said, what we have, what we previously had, and you know, what we want to have. You know, what are the best practices, and you know, because there is a lot of you know, devils in the details. You know, how to write. You know, when you want to write some kind of function that you know is doing some kind of recursion, and you know, you can say, oh yeah, I know how to do it, but is this works in Scala? Is this stack safe? You know, how performant? You know, this way of writing, or you know, do you need to do some kind of Scala way, and you know, this kind of stuff that you want to give to new developers, so you know that we have code that is easily maintainable. Because now in the code base there is lots of different you know, ways how the code is written. It is definitely much better than was at the beginning. But you know, it's not each project in the whole RChain project is not the same. You know,
so good. So I think we're all on the same page as kind of where we're at and where we want to see this. So I was looking at Discord. So you know, we're talking about, you know, Scala education and you know, educating developers. And you know, as we, you know, talk about this during the week, you know, we talk about content creation. You know, how are we going to create the content? You know, how are we going to put it together, and what is that content going to be? So I was looking at the different channels in Discord, and I was trying to think, is there a channel that exists now that we would want to use to have these conversations, or do we see that we want to create a new channel? Any thoughts on that as we kind of look through the Discord channels? Because I see this as, you know, we're talking about, you know, this educational content. It's, you know, it has a narrow area, but we're going to have a lot of activity. So just wanted to share that. And so, you know, we can certainly use an existing channel, or I can have Ian create one. And if I did, you know, what would that new channel be?
So my stand is that maybe better is to use existing channel, at least for now.
Okay.
And maybe we can. So I usually I'm like a visual guy, and you know, I like some kind of sketches or something that you know, can just very you know, in very easy way to say, you know, what is all about, you know.
Okay.
So maybe we can create this kind of way of presenting, like, you know, here is the link to some notes or whatever, and one sketch or something, that one schema that you know, it says this is what we are doing, you know. So you can have some kind of visual way of
Okay, and why don't we use, I'm thinking, you know, the development channel for now, because, you know, this is all kind of around, you know, ultimately development. So we'll have these conversations in development, and so we have, and this is the DApp developer folder for everyone, and so good. So we'll have this as kind of the repository. So as we start to create, you know, the sketches that you talked about, and the slides and so forth, let's put them into this folder. And Jim, refresh my memory on how people can access, you know, to provide them. So I guess we want to make sure that people who is interested have access to this folder, and their email that they use for Google needs to be added to which list?
Yeah, okay.
Jim? Or is he on mute?
Yeah, I was on mute. Google Groups.
Okay, Google Group.
RChain at Google Groups.
Okay, and I'm sure I've got the login somewhere.
Yeah,
So what I'll do,
should have these things documented somewhere.
yeah. So let me. So I'll go back and start to so kind of lay out what the broader plan is. You know, create a document. Well, we've already created it here. You know, this is the RChain Scala educational series.
Oh, okay.
And
But to some extent, a lot of this will be public anyway.
exactly.
Anyone with a link can access. But yeah,
Right.
we can let everybody who's a member actually have at least comment and edit capabilities, whatever. But I think everybody can have comment. So it's not urgent, but we should get everybody who is a member in the RChain at Google Groups.
Okay. So what I'll do initially is just, you know, kind of lay out what the plan is, you know, for this RChain educational series. Start to get solicit emails for people who are interested and want to learn, so that when we start publishing content, you know, slides, you know, we're going to post our slides in the channel, and you know, those of us here we'll be accessing those, but there's going to be other people who are going to click on the link who out of curiosity, and you know, they're not going to be open it because they're not in Google Groups. So we want to kind of in anticipation address that. So so let me work on that piece of it. So so let's see here. Let's I think this is so next steps. Okay. Okay. Google. So with the the sketch, so and I think, you know, breaking this down into small incremental pieces is, you know, it's that build on each other is, you know, certainly helpful. So it's, you know, we look at next steps, you know, so next step is, you know, and actually before that, so we need kind of bear with me here. I'm kind of thinking how you know, if we're talking in the channel, you know, we're discussing content and what we're doing, there's going to be other people who are going to be reading it, but they're not going to have a context of what's going on. So, you know, I need to kind of make an introduction, you know, kind of announce what this is that this activity that we're doing. So let me just make a note here. Announce the RChain okay, and that you know, we're going to be creating content. Okay, and that we need emails. So we're going to be providing posting links with of drafts. So this is, we're going to use the Discord channel as, you know, we're going to be posting links and actively working on things, but it's all going to be in draft mode. So people are going to want to see what's going on. So so we're going to be creating drafts. So to view, okay. So, okay, so that's how I kind of see this as kind of us working together. We're kind of like in a, you know, this analogy people use, we're in a fishbowl we're in a fishbowl working, but people are looking in, looking at the fish, you know, swimming around. Oh, what are they doing? You know, they're swimming around in the fish tank. I'm really interested what these guys are doing. Boy, and hey, maybe some of them might even by them, you know, watching us work and, you know, communicate, they may get more engaged and want to contribute. So that's always a possibility. So good. So and then it's you know, we've got the sketches. Why is it not going back? Oh, okay. Then sketches and slides. So now this is more the content creation. Okay. So okay. So I think and I think, you know, we're trying to figure this out as we do it. So it's, you know, we don't know exactly, you know, what doing this step, but what follows this step. Is it that step or this step? You know, so we're all kind of in the process of figuring this out. So, but at least, you know, we recognize we have a place where we're going to be actively discussing this. So I think, and we're actually coming on top of the hour. So this time next week, I envision we'll have kind of this kind of laid out, and we'll, you know, maybe during the week start to, you know, have ideas, content, you know, kind of ideas going back and forth, and then maybe even a sketch or two or a slide or two. So, you know, it'll start to slowly, by this time next week, you know, it'll start to take some shape. So, and, you know, people have to recognize, hey, this is where you're watching the construction going on, and this is all kind of and draft. And good. So I think we've got kind of a plan.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyone have any other thoughts or ideas?
So my question for Rafael. So Steve, you have Mac. So I'm not sure that Nix can be installed on Mac, and also I'm not sure that R-Node can be compiled on Mac.
I have a virtual machine. What is it? Where you BMX or what? I can't think of what it was, but yeah, I've got Windows on my Mac, so I can pull up my virtual machine.
For now, the Linux is only supported, so I couldn't compile R-Node on Windows, even in Windows Linux subsystem or in Docker. I couldn't do it. So for now, I don't know the way to run on Windows, but you can run Linux on virtual machine, right?
Well, I do have a IBM virtual machine I haven't used in quite some time. It was free, and I still may have a little bit of time left on it, but I think it's running Ubuntu or something like that. So
okay, there is also another option to use Vagrant. Which is like easy way to create virtual machines, you know. So for example, I can create a Vagrant specification, and then if you have Vagrant installed, you can, you know, easily just run whatever is needed.
What is that you're talking about?
It's not I, but A.
Oh, Vagrant.
Vagrant.
Oh, Vagrant.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, so we can in Discord maybe post the links to Vagrant in the developer channel. So I'll read up on that, and I'll try to, you know, figure out what I'm going to do, you know, in order for me to get the pieces I need to be able to function. So
we have some documentation. Yes.
Oh, we do.
Wouldn't it be more useful to use Docker Compose rather than Vagrant? I mean, you have to learn Docker, but you don't.
Yeah, sure. But with Docker, I couldn't compile, or more correctly, sorry, I was able to compile, but I couldn't run this executable inside the Docker. and I couldn't find what is the problem. So that's the reason we don't have like instructions how to run on Windows.
Right.
Or
Well,
on Docker.
Vagrant wouldn't solve that problem, right?
Well, I'm saying Vagrant because we have manual to use Vagrant on macOS. So I'm imagining this works. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Now we don't have it here. So where? So we have this on in the repository. How to run on macOS with VirtualBox.
Okay.
So this is inside the virtual machine.
But most of your stuff is Docker Compose, right? But that's not good on Macintosh.
I'm not talking about running. I'm talking about compiling, and compiling is. I'm not sure why, but compiling is have some problems. So as I said, I was able to compile, but what I compiled didn't run, or I had an error when I ran it. So
Yeah.
I'm.
Well, whatever works.
Yeah, for now, I see Vagrant as the easiest way to spin up a new virtual machine with specific version of the Ghost OS that you need.
Okay.
But yeah, I would like to compile it on Docker.
Okay.
And also, I'm seeing that Nix can be used on Mac, but maybe not the latest version, or so it's not. From that perspective, Linux is the most supported. So.
Okay.
But yeah, Will is working on the macOS, so information from Will is definitely something that we would like to hear.
Okay. Okay.
Now, what is it that Dan Connolly uses?
Emacs.
Ansible or something? He uses
Oh,
it.
So Ansible is like an orchestration tool. So
Yeah.
you can. So in that sense, it's similar to Docker Compose, right? You specify or Vagrant also. You specify a configuration that you want to achieve, and then this tool install everything. And but I'm not sure that Ansible, as the part of Ansible is virtualization, right? The Vagrant is exactly to spin up new virtual machines. And Ansible, I'm not sure. Ansible is more like for servers, like, so it probably can do similar things, but it's more.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking because Dan Connolly uses that, he might be willing to help do an Ansible build of RChain.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, if you want to use Nix as part of the Ansible, so this is also like something that. So now we have a continuous integration with Google, with GitHub. So and you need to specify in this configuration. And let me post the link for that.
So Nix.
So we need to specify the whole build dependencies and how to build RChain so that continuous integration can do the same thing. And maybe we can do it with Nix more easily, right? Because Nix gives you a way to install, with just a few commands, whatever you need. So we also in the project we have Nix file, but it's not complete. So what I said, I'm searching for.
Yeah. Now
for continuous integration. So this file for continuous integration is interesting because this is specification of the whole build, how to build Arnold. It must be, because when GitHub is starting this action of building, it creates a virtual machine, and with all of these things. So maybe one of the improvements can be to rewrite this continuous integration GitHub actions with Nix. So it's like much smaller and easier to understand. Because in continuous integration, you are not care about you have Linux machine there, so you can you don't need to have support for like multiple OSs or that kind of stuff.
So what exactly is Nix? I mean,
so Nix is basically the package manager, but Nix is also the complete distribution. And
so this is what a Nix file looks like. This is default.nix.
This is Nix, yeah, written in Nix language.
The Nix language. So Nix is a language.
Nix has its own language, but it's not only language. It's really the package manager, which is read-only, completely read-only. So in that sense, it has similarity to Rolling.
So this same file, does it work for iOS and Mac and Unix? No.
I think now support is mostly for Linux, but
it's iOS.
But I think now they're expanding this to iOS, but Windows is not supported still. The language is not super easy to understand, but you don't need to use it. So that's the main point.
Right.
Most times you don't. Sorry.
We have a file like this for RChain that needs to be finished or fixed, right? Is that what you're saying?
No.
So
so file that I said for continuous integration, this is not related to Nix. So this is a file that is accepted with GitHub as a specification how you want to run your build. And Nix. So what is the main purpose of Nix with this Nix file? To specify how you build your project. So we want to package Arnold with Nix.
Are you going to be around Saturday morning? Should we arrange a time with Dan on Friday also?
Is this before Isaac, right?
Yeah.
Before category. Okay, I will try. Each Saturday I'm trying to and. So many things are happening, but I will try. If we can talk about that, I will try.
So basically, Nix is sort of a Docker, but for compilation and development, and not for execution.
Yes, and why is nice? Because when you specify with Nix how you want to build, for example, if you want to build API in Nix, right, as a package on Nix, you specify all of the dependencies, and all of these dependencies may also be inside the Nix, right? Because the whole compilation will be hashed, and and this hash will be part of the name of your build. So the whole build is read-only. So the whole Nix, all of the Nix packages are read-only. So the Nix OS, the whole Nix OS is read-only. So this is why it's not easy to start using it immediately, because if you need something that is not already packaged in Nix, you need to create your own Nix file and do the whole thing. So this is why it's not easy. But if you are using just the Nix packages, then it's super great because everything is read only. You can have your own server on your local network, and you just for example, if you are using NixOS, you have one configuration file for your whole system. So you can specify, in this file you can just boot up this file and say, oh, Nix install my whole system without problems and everything. Sorry, Rafael, you muted.
When you say read-only, I don't understand. Does it mean that the version numbers are only incremental?
So the version number is really not important in that sense, right? I mean, you care about it, but from Nix perspective, Nix only cares about is the build, is anything changed in your build. So if you're building the same files in the same way and producing the same result, this is the same. So Nix will say, okay, this is the same hash. So when you install Nix packages, they all have like hash in the name of the folder. So you only have symbolic links to like global files that you have installed. So, so for example, what is like cool stuff? You have Nix shell, and you can say Nix shell -p Firefox, and you will have Firefox in your terminal, but just on this terminal. When you exit your terminal, you don't have Firefox anymore, right? So this kind of stuff is like very nice because for our node, this is nice because we can install, specific package that we need for BNFC or, okay, now we don't need it anymore. So like specific version, but yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So what I think we are going to need to focus on pretty soon is the sharding. And I think the personal shard is the approach that we need to take based on what we were saying in the Art on the Blockchain conference. People want to keep their own art on their own, in their own shard, so to speak. And a community of artists, whatever, would have, it would be cost prohibitive to store your art on the blockchain unless it was your own blockchain, okay, your own community shard, so to speak. So we, so it's a pool, which is what we're doing in the collab, so to speak. But we, the first step is that personal shard, and you had an architecture for that set up, Thomas Love. I remember that was pretty. But then how do the shards talk to each other, and what are the contracts? And I think Mike Stay did a bunch of work on that, which we can borrow. But I mean, it's really an open, frontier. We don't know what we're going to build in terms. I mean, we know how we can communicate processes between systems. Okay, we have to translate. The first thing we need is remote names. You need to be able to have a name of something that's remote. So we have to have a proxy object for a remote name. And then when we send something to a remote name, it goes off the shard. Okay, it's gone.
Remote name, you mean for communication between shards or
right.
root shard or parent shard and child?
Remote name is on another shard. So you would have, on the Art on the Blockchain shard, you would have remote names to mainnet. Okay, which when you use the remote name, okay, the transaction was executed on mainnet. I mean, it sent, you know, the remote name received it across the intersection. So we sent it across either, I think you had a GDRP. I mean, didn't you have an interface between that would work between shards, Thomas Love?
No. Do you think about my demo for WebSockets or?
Yeah, well, that was part of it. Okay, that's another justification.
Yeah, I'm not sure how shards will communicate. I know that Greg said revs on the main shard will not be the same revs on the child shard.
Yeah, don't even worry about that right now. Worry first about remote names. As long as names belong to a shard, and the only thing we do is receive and send to names, processes. Okay, and how to communicate them between processes between systems is simple. Okay, just at the boundary, we have to convert remote names to local names and local names to remote names at the boundary between the systems.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think now I'm starting to understand what do you mean by remote names, right? This naming or mapping is what is important. Yeah. I'm not sure how to.
The system would not be decentralized unless we did that.
Yeah. I agree. But Jim, I'm not sure how to protect this mapping. I don't have idea, right? On one side, am I correct, right? We are creating an unforgeable name on one shard and an unforgeable name on another shard. And you're saying there is no way they are connected. So we need additional mapping that we can say, oh, this, when someone send on this unforgeable name on shard 1, we will transfer this completely to unforgeable name on shard 2, right? Is this what you mean by?
Yeah, there has to be a mapping of remote objects.
How to do you have some kind of idea how to do this? Because I'm thinking about like another shard which holds the mapping, you know. So when you want to create a mapping, you do deploy on this shard, and this.
Okay, mapping is not a problem. How to do it efficiently is a problem, but the systems support maps, so we can do the mapping. Okay.
Okay. So you're saying on my shard, I will have the mapping, right? So from my shard, I will create deploy to another shard, right?
Right.
This will be communication that connects, which executes this mapping, right?
And you're worried, or we need to be worried about how we do the object capabilities across the shard. I mean, do I have permission to have this name? Okay, is this a valid copy? I mean, so that's where we're talking from one VAT to another VAT.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where we need to have encryption and signed messages.
Yeah, I mean, we have this with the deploys, and
right.
How one shard can.
That's right. They can deploy. That's exactly what they do, is deploy.
Yep. This is the only way to create a change, right?
They deploy. But
so I'm thinking
we have to do the mapping of the names.
And this mapping must be via registry. It must be, because
I'm sorry?
it must be via registry, because you cannot communicate unforgeable names directly, private names, right? So one shard needs to create this entry in the registry to communicate. So I'm not sure that Greg said, okay, easy way is to create a contract on one side and a contract on another side, and you're just exchanging the information. But
Right.
Greg said, and I think that we are talking about this time. But Greg said that he has a better way to communicate, and I'm not, I'm interested to hear what is this better way, but I don't know it. But how to do it without contracts? It's he said that this way is like more performant, and so I'm not sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, you've got. There's no question that we've got the problem. The thing is that by we only need one object that resolves the remote object on a shard. Okay, you could just tell that one, this is this is my proof that I can have this name. Okay, and that and if the proof is valid, then we send the tuples to the remote name. Okay, I mean, we're given, so we're saying this is our remote name, this is our proof, this is what we want to send to it. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I mean, for that purpose, it would be nice that our node can run multiple shards, right? Because in that case,
we just have to say how they're connected. How does one deploy in the other? And we already have a way you can deploy. We may not need to do anything except use the code that Mike Stay already wrote.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that how to create deploy from the blockchain, right? In rolling, you don't have a way to, blockchain is closed. All the execution of rolling in the blockchain is closed. Even the printing to standard output is misleading, because this is not allowed. This doesn't make sense to print to standard output. And so this is like exception in rolling now, that you can print to standard output, but there is no standard output on blockchain, right? Because each validator has its own standard output. And so how to create a deploy, how to say inside the blockchain, oh, I'm creating deploy to another network, so each validator will do the same thing, right? Each validator will try to create a deploy to this network, and, because each validator which executes this shard, each validator is the same, right? Each validator will do the same thing. So we will create multiple deploys, right? To communicate this, because in your code you will say, oh, I'm going to the remote name. And the other validator, when validates the code, he will also say, oh, I need to go there.
I'm missing your point.
So I'm talking about more directly in the rolling, how to do this external operation. This another shard is completely different chain. So right. Node, I'm not sure if node.
Definitely a power box function, right? Deploy.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I'm exactly talking about this specific power box function, to create a deploy. How this works.
I thought you did. I thought you were the one that talked about that. Yeah.
I don't know, you know.
But yeah, if we
Yeah.
could, so we have the
But yeah, I was thinking very much in this direction. You know, now we, you know, for example, you have HTTP, you can do the deploy, you know, so you can do it, you know, from rolling. But I'm still don't know how to go to the blockchain part. You know, how to, you know, what I did was only about rolling, not about blockchain, because for that I'm not sure how to do it.
well, see, think about the personal shard first. Okay, you're the only one that has. It has only the stuff you want to keep.
Like for example, you spin up your machines as your validator, right? Only you run this.
Absolutely,
nodes and
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Okay. And
Okay.
this is something that everyone should have, right? This is like your stuff. You put one machine on your one place, one machine on your friend. Just, you know.
Right, and you know, if you want any privacy on a blockchain, you have to have your own.
Yeah.
You can't share it.
Which is like your database, right? Your distributed database,
Yeah.
your own. So yeah. And so from there, you want to communicate. So
You want to communicate with remote channels, which simply means you want to do deploys. Really, but in order for this to be functional, we need to translate between remote and local names during the transfer when we do the deploy.
So in which kind of relationship is this your shard, which is completely private, with the main shard, like the mainnet?
Well,
Are there a parent-child relationship, or you are saying no?
they're not dependent, except that on your personal shard, you've got names that are on mainnet or Tampa Bay net or someplace else. The names are not local. You need a power box function to send to them. Okay, but when you send to them, you want to do that conversion of local to remote and remote to local references.
But can you access if I'm creating deploy on the main network? Can I reference a name from your shard to get data from your shard?
Yes. Yeah, it's a peer-to-peer.
But this data is not part of the mainnet, right? So mainnet cannot guarantee you I have the data. Mainnet can just say, oh, I know, you know, this hash of the data. I don't have the data, but you know, you need to create another request or somehow, you know, because main shard cannot include this data or you know, how to reference this data and say, oh, I know this is like correct, or all the validators can access this data.
It's just a name. You don't guarantee anything about it. It's a name on this shard. That's it.
So you cannot compute with these values on the main shard. You cannot, because you have only name. You cannot compute, right? You cannot take this value and send to someone else because you're managing the name.
Well, it's a remote name. You can send to a remote name. Okay, and you know, it's the same thing as standard out.
Okay.
Okay.
I see.
it's saying, I've got a message for this name. And the name can have both local, can have names that belong to the shard it's being sent to, as well as names that belong to the shard that's sending it. Right, so you're sending it names that from any context. You know, it could be a third party's, a name from a third party, whatever.
But you don't reference the message itself, right? You cannot do this because, you know.
What do you mean?
So
you can't read it.
Oh, you cannot, right?
Right. Yeah. I don't think you can.
Yeah, because it doesn't exist on your network, so you cannot guarantee that all the validators will see the same thing, and you know you don't have the proof.
Right.
Okay. So it's more like you are exchanging URLs, right? And you are sending to me. You are sending this URL that I can access on your shard, but not directly through the main shard execution, right? I will access this through my shard by Powerbox, right? But you are sending me the link and the object capability to do this.
And it uses your validator identity when it deploys, right?
And so we are registering our private shards on the main shard in some way, so that we can exchange this name in a secure way, right? So we can so that I can via this main shard I can send you this object capability to read some of the private stuff that I have, right? I will say, oh, on my shard, this is the.
Yeah, it actually it gets permission to write to the names, not to read to the names. But that's you're right. It's you,
Okay. Yeah.
You can query all of the objects, right?
I see. Yeah.
By sending.
I was also thinking that this can be applied to the hardware, right? When I buy my keyboard or mouse, right? I just plug it in USB, and you know everything works. But in the same way, we can create all of our devices with crypto channels, right? So when I plug in my keyboard on Rolling OS, right? I will just plug it in on some channel, and you know I will give my Rolling OS permission to read or write. And for example, for that purpose, I can give you permission to my part of the screen, which is just a channel, right? So when we are in the conference, you will be your camera will be directly streaming to my part of the screen, as we do it now, right? But we can have completely the permission of this, right? I will give you exactly the part of my screen.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah, so we need this way of creating these remote names, like some kind of links that we are referencing.
and you know, is it a shared? Yeah. You know, it's got to be a shared secret.
Yeah. And
but you see, the problem gets it. You know, how do you put a secret on the chain? Well, it's by
But you know what I was thinking? So, for example, I create a contract on the mainnet, and I'm saying in this contract, you know, I closed in this contract. I'm closing some private name, right? And I'm saying this private name, I'm listening in this contract on my node, and whatever you send on this name, I will print on my standard output. And now the question is, who can send something on this private name? If this is protected by, what we have now in sealer and sealer, right? Only someone who can write to this name exposed via sealer and sealer can write to my standard output. And this is like for you, this is like remote name because I'm listening on this name.
Right.
So in that sense, okay, this is not sharding because you are writing directly to the mainnet, but it can be extended like to separate network, separate shard.
Right.
So we don't need like special mechanism to protect, right? My shard will connect, but yeah, you are sending messages. What you receive, okay, it must be somehow translated to different shard. Yeah, this is similar situation to Watts. How you are protected with crypto until you enter the Watt, and then you have like semantics to protect. Like in rolling, you have bundles to protect. But when you go outside, you need crypto. So
Right. It has to be signed. That's the way we do deploys, right? Sign it.
yes. So how to communicate without? So we definitely need some kind of mapping of our crypto keys to these names. So you can say, if it's signed with this public key, I'm allowing something. But is this going to the on the wrong way? If we are doing this like ACL, managing private, public keys and who have access. Probably we can do some kind of translation to capabilities from this.
Yeah. Well, I've sort of had some mixed feelings about using object capabilities here. I mean, when we have an account, a rev account, okay, that is that is how we sign things. I mean, that's an identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we, in a capability model, we're allowed to delegate our authority.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that actually you want to be able to whitelist who can send to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
in the form of public keys, right? You want to say, messages only signed with these public keys are
right.
And this is probably the only way, right? Maybe we cannot do it in any other way because you're outside of the protected,
Right.
like protected blockchains part of the rolling that is completely closed. So yeah.
So I mean, it's not a solved problem, but we can filter cross-site messages any way we want, so we don't have to decide how we're going to trust them or not, in the sense that we can write contracts to deal with that later.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And for blockchain art, can you say what is really needed now for the first iteration? Right? You said you need your own shard because you will have lots of data that you don't want to put on the mainnet. So so to do this first, first version, what do we need for this private shard?
Well, we have to, we could do it. I mean, it can be done in the client in the sense that, we can deploy to either shard. Okay, but we have that address translation to handle, or name translation.
So I'm trying to understand the logic of accessing the data. So I have data on my shard, which is I want to say private, but I'm not completely sure. If you're accessing my network, I mean, you can get almost any data, right? So how do you vision this private shard? What is allowed? Only deploys, or so you will not allow exploratory deploys, right? Because you don't want to everyone to get access, right? Only thing that is allowed is deploy, and that's it. So if you cannot execute your deploy, but this is also problematic because you want to validate this deploy, because in the deploy can give you data whatever you want, right? Because later this deploy can be orphaned, and so I'm not sure what exactly what request to your private shard will be allowed. What do we need some special thing or
No. Okay, you've got to have a whitelist, and you've got to have
in the rolling, or it should be in the rolling, right?
and you have to have a mapping to the unforgeable name that is being,
Or registry, or better to say registry, because registry is like global. And
well, I don't know if it's the registry, because I mean it's a mapping for sure, a tree map, I guess, but
but you get information about the channel from the mainnet, from the main shard, and after that you are directly requesting data from this private shard, because you have
there okay, you get a key that lets you write to a name on the server. So you have a mapping from keys to channels, right? So, and ultimately we want to only have one-time keys.
I see. So you're creating requests by writing to this channel on the main shard, and
Right.
and the private shard is observing changes to this channel on the main shard, and is doing something if everything is okay, right?
Okay, so I'm going. Have a good day.
All right.
You.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I guess the devil is in the details, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, this is the logic. I'm always coming back to this logic, you know. You have your own machine, right? You're running your machine and you are observing something, right? You cannot, someone cannot send you directly to you because you are observing some name on the blockchain. And when someone put the right key on this name, right, then you will do something, right? So if you want to get data from my shard, you need to write to this name on the main shard, and I will send you the data, right?
Yeah, but
That
that's the remote reference. You're writing
yes, yes,
reference.
yes. Okay.
Okay, in other words,
No,
you have a key to access a remote reference.
yeah. Okay. Now I understand what you are saying by remote name. Now we can talk about this and think about the same thing. Yeah. Remote reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should be like we should explain this you know how this works, because you are not doing the same thing as we are doing now. You are directly accessing server and right, because you have your own database, and you know you are just observing this remote reference.
Yeah. Well, I built the distributed Smalltalk object server back in the 80s, which
Cool.
had remote objects. Okay. So this is old hat for me.
Mm.
And it works great. It maximizes parallelism across the network, has a lot of nice properties. But instead of remote objects, now we just have remote names. But you know, names are objects, right?
Yeah, it can be whatever. Yeah.
So
So in your system, did you have the same logic of somehow client observes this remote objects,
no,
or
we didn't have an observer, and you know, I'm not sure we really need an observer. I mean, an observer is the remote object itself. Okay, it notice, you know, it generates an event basically.
and who reads the event and how?
The event is a message to the name. That's remote. That's the event.
And the client picks up this event in some way.
This is going to do a deploy on that shard.
This parent shard, right? So the child.
Peers shard.
Okay, but now in the rolling terms, you are not sending deploys from the main shard, right? You are reading the main shard.
Yes, you are. You're sending you have a power box function to do a deploy on a remote shard.
Oh. But can you do this with rolling? I mean, to deploy you need a private key and everything,
Yeah.
and so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the validator signs it, and if he's whitelisted, it goes through.
But if validators do the signing, that we are losing this authentication. Who can do this? Because your validator is impersonating you to create a deploy. So this is why I was thinking that we can observe events created on the parent shard, and we can say, oh, there is a consensus for this remote reference that this happens, and now I can send you the data that you show that you are allowed to see. So my private shard will send you information to your remote name or some your private shard.
Well, you know, you can also have the validator deploy, have in it deployer ID, auth key, whatever.
Can this be abused? If validator, can validator create by itself this kind of message without your knowledge? How to protect?
Well, you know, if you don't trust the signer, you know, you have to trust the signer. It's not an you know, it's not a trustless system. That's why it needs to be whitelisted.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And, you know, we may choose to all back each other up, basically share one shard. I mean, we can still have a personal shard, and we can have a shared shard. Every team should have a shard.
So you are saying if you want to have communication, 3 shards are needed, right? So you can have one shard to just for communication somehow. Yeah, yeah. There's lots of details. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess first things first. It's kind of hard when everything is equally important, but yeah, we definitely need to be able to work on RChain development easily. Should be boom, one command, make RChain.
Yeah, I mean, just to split, just to create. So now with this last finalized state, we will be able to compact all of the history, right? So what does it mean to acquire last finalized state? So you can start from state that is now on the tuple space, and you can forget all of the previous stuff, previous blocks and everything. So it would be nice that you can say for your node, oh, just do this right now, you know, forget all of the previous stuff and, you know, continue. And you will have a much smaller file, right? This history file that we now have on the mainnet is like a file that I have is 25 gigs. So it's huge. But after I transfer this file, after I extract only the last state, it's half gigabyte. So it's, you know, a lot smaller. So it would be nice to have to say to your R node, you know, just compact the file, but you cannot do this with LNDB. LNDB is append only. So you need to create another database, copy the last state, and then say to node, oh, use this another database. And this is very complicated because the node, when it starts, it creates database on one place, and, you know, there is no way to change it. So this is like difficult part to just somehow decouple this and, you know, somehow do this operation in steps and say, oh, I will create another database, because you don't want to have you don't want to stop your R node, right? Your node can do whatever it's doing, and you can create this state on this another folder. Like, why not? But how to switch to another folder? Because this another folder, you need to change your configuration part of it. Because if you restart the node and you have previous configuration, this is not the same folder. So one of the things that we are now discussing is how to move configuration to more dynamic configuration, right? So that most of the operations will not require restart of the node. So which is more secure because you don't need to supply your private key, and the idea is that like all operations you can do with API. So we will create another admin API to do these commands and these statuses or commands. So yeah, there is lots of work.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we can split this and work each of these parts separately and improve.
Yeah, and then we have the tokens. Okay, we're talking about having a hours token, and we're talking about having a staked rev token.
Mm.
Yeah, one staked rev token for every rev you put in the pool.
How this works? Can you say?
Then we can trade staked rev tokens, which don't have the stigma or control. They're not subject to actually to the co-op. It's a community token.
And how this token is redistributed?
No, we need it. We need what Dan just said, atomic swap. Right? You want to do an atomic swap of rev for state rev.
But who is the holder of a staked rev? Is this
the guy who contributed rev to the pool? For every rev he contributed to the pool, he gets a state rev token.
Oh, I see. And this is staked pool. Oh, yeah. I see now. So
now when we have to pay, when we have to pay off, or we have to vote, okay, these tokens each get a certain reward. So depending on how many you hold, you get a reward, right?
mm-hmm. I see.
And those will be periodic initially. I don't know, maybe once a week or something. Because it doesn't pay to keep track of it all the time.
And you have revs that and the revs are in the staking, right?
Right.
These revs that are used to buy staking revs.
Right.
They are now staked like normal revs in like validator that is staking. And when this validator is getting some reward in revs, this is like translated to staking rev and rewards are distributed, or you are talking about rewards.
The holder of the staking rev receives rev.
For reward.
Where there's a reward, right?
I see. So in this way, you can control stake rev in a separate way from rev directly, right?
Right.
So,
and somebody can just leave their stake in, never withdraw it, right? So just let it grow.
I see. Yeah, I was now I remember it's not directly related, but I was watching uh, uh, some videos about monetary policy and like uh, you know how we are now you know doing this the whole thing with the money, and and it's different from the past when we have money directly related to the gold or something, and uh, you know usually we are hearing, oh, the state must acquire the taxes so that you must be liquid, and so that the state is not in deficit, because this is like a debt, and you don't want to be in debt, and but they are saying that this is not the case, right? The state is issuer of the currency, so there is no the problem that state doesn't have enough currency. It's like, this is crazy, because you are the issuer, so there is no problem of not having the currency, and
Yeah.
so that the currency should be like stimulus
If we want to
to
populate,
employ all of the people.
we want to populate the galaxy and beyond, we have to capitalize on human potential, because it's just such a vast resource that is
Yeah.
untapped, virtually untapped.
Yeah. I mean, they're saying if you have unemployed people in your state, you just need to print more money and say to these people, I have the money, please go to work, right? Because you're the state, you're printing the money. So if you see someone is not working, or some machine is just laying around without any purpose, just print the money and put it in the work, because you are
Create value, right?
creating value, right? So for me that was like, oh, this totally makes sense, right? The taxes are just a way to create demand for your currency, right?
Yeah.
This is why you're creating taxes. It's not the revenue for the state, because state doesn't care about the taxes, right? It can just print more money.
Yeah.
So this is like completely changed my perspective of constantly hearing, oh, we need to collect taxes because we don't have enough money. The debt is bigger and bigger, and
Yeah. Well, that's.
so
I
we
mean,
can create something similar, right? With tokens.
yeah. Well, I'm the first one to say that it's immoral to use their money, because it gives them control over us. And we need to be using our own money.
Yeah.
And, that's community money. And then the question becomes, how do we govern it? We have community money. We don't want we don't want to be tied to RChain's fate as a co-op.
Yes.
But we're a pool, a community, okay, with our own governance. And
so we are like issuing the currency, right? We are the issuers.
right.
So how in this situation, how can we decide, oh, it would be useful to generate some new tokens and to distribute it in this way? Like we are becoming like state, right? In that sense.
Right.
So how
then we have the hours token also, so that we could pay each other in hours.
I like this idea.
Yeah, the hours tokens is more of like the currency that we use day to day. So the day-to-day currency, the government can decide, oh, you don't have enough, we just create more out of thin air. So the hours token is the same idea. We're using hours, you do something for me and I pay you in the hours tokens. You work 10 hours. Then you have that 10 hours token. Jim does something for you. then you pay Jim for working for 5 hours. So it's being it's going, the money's changing hands, and the faster that it goes around, that's called velocity of money. You know, the more people you have with this set number of amount of money, it changes hands more quickly. So and the, you know, its potential, you know, the value of that unit can increase. So as the state, as the community, we decide, depending on what is happening in our community, we add money into the community.
It's important that we have the budgeting coming down and the allocation coming up. Okay, so that we pay each other from a budget that we have for an activity, or we did something cool, so we give ourselves a bonus, whatever, but it comes out of some budget, right?
Yeah, so
initially by consent, okay? So the consent of the team, whatever it is, they can spend their budget, you know, spend their budget any way they want.
mm-hmm.
And it's, you know, I mean, there's certain things I think we probably want to follow, which are like having the we might want to have skill levels like Big Life, so that, you know, you might get 2 hours instead of 1 hour for an hour of time in an expertise, whatever, or 3 hours for 1 hour, whatever.
So that brings back to, you know, 50 years ago, the currency was tied to gold. You know, that was the real value, was the gold. So here in the community, the hours token is tied to work, and we have to define, okay, what is a unit of work? What is the value? So once we kind of figure that out, we know, okay, if I pay you 1 unit, 1 token, that represents 1 unit of work, and we're all in agreement of, you know, how much work is done in that hour and what kind of work and so forth. So I think those are the things that we have to work through because ultimately I think we want everyone to perceive it as that token has value, and, you know, it's our labor that, you know, we're all perceiving that, you know, that token has value. We give it value because we say it has value, and that unit is, you know, it's backed up by hours of work.
Right. And, you know, I suggest that it should have a purpose, because the purpose sort of says, you know, the hours are in agreement with our purpose.
Yeah, definitely. The same work, if it's not needed, then it's less valuable in a sense, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we need some kind of we need some kind of agreement about what is 1 hour of work, and this can be different.
That's the thing. We don't have to agree, really. I mean, we just agree among ourselves, and that's, you know, that's it. So,
but what if we just pump each other?
It's like there's no rules that are permanent. Okay, for now we say, you know, we can say anything we want. Now, what do we consider an hour's work, and then we can talk about it, and then we can pay each other in hours. But
we can lie, right? So how can we protect? You know, how can someone trust us with our you know?
That's an interesting thing. You know, we had the other side in the Big Life also. I mean, where where you rate yourself in terms of, I've done 20% of the work in this activity. Okay, and well, that may bring you over. The total now may be 120%. Okay, we just didn't care. We let ourselves go over, and we never had any disputes. But but people could rate you also, and you can a group decision is the median of the individual solutions in the simplest case. Okay, so that's where we start. If we can agree to that. So I say you're worth 10 hours, and Bob says you're worth 40 hours, and it comes out to 25 hours or whatever.
Yeah, that piece of it, I still, I'm new to it all. I still have to get an understanding, and I think some of the thinking that they, it's all the monetary policy. That's essentially what it is in this community token, and they're kind of basing it on their experience from the bounty system. And I wasn't involved in the bounty system, so I'm having to. Yeah, I'm learning this as well.
Yeah, well, the bounty system was just barely beginning to work when it got ended.
Yeah, okay.
And I just state of where it became useful.
Yeah.
There was no money.
Jim, you're talking about this large Excel, right? Before Dan created a separate application, right?
The what?
The large Excel file that is on Google Drive, right? Yeah. Which becomes so big that it's so difficult to open, and I remember that.
Well, I'm gonna head on out, Jim. I know here in 45 minutes we have, or actually an hour and 45 minutes. I think, don't we have the DApp Developer Working Group?
Yeah, we do. Probably should show up.
So that's that actually, yeah. So that's an hour and 45. So
it's like I want to do everything, but I really don't want to work. I want to be retired.
And during the DApp Developer Working Group, we're going to be talking about what we talked about at the governance meeting, which is discussing the RChain voting DApp.
Okay.
That'll be the topic of discussion.
Right. That's important for the co-op as well as ourselves and our cooperation, our pool.
Right. And briefly for Tomislav's knowledge, so each year in October we have our elections where we elect board members, and we vote for board members, and we vote for IOBs, topics of business. So we've used third-party applications for voting. The goal for this year is that we use RChain. We create an application that runs on RChain that's a voting application. So we're in April now, April, May, June, July, August, September. We want to have this up and running by September, or August actually. So April, May, June, July, August. So 5 months. So then September, we can test it out, get everything ready so that in October we're actually using it. So we've got 5 months to kind of but Jim, he's done quite a bit of work on this, but that's the goal.
Yeah. Now, so what we need to do is first generate 1,000 tickets, or however many members we have, that are secret. Nobody knows who's got what ticket. We email tickets randomly to people. Okay. Then there's the voting app itself, where they supply the ticket in order to vote on the items. Most of them are yes, no. So it's good. It would, be fairly simple. I don't know if they want to support a ranking, but the thing is, we wouldn't have to support anything but yes, no in order to be used for the October meeting, right? Everything, any other types would be gravy, and I think it would be easy to add different question types.
So each of the voters should have some rev address that can create a deploy, right?
Well, that's going to be a problem. In other words, in order for this to be anonymous, we
I mean,
have
anonymous in a sense that, as you said, you have ticket, but you don't know which ticket is related to this, to which public key. So,
right, but how do you don't want, that means you don't want to deploy the ticket yourself, right? That's a,
yeah, can you just take, I'm thinking what you said, you have generated, for example, unforgeable names, and
yeah.
if you just deliver these names, can we shuffle it in a way that is anonymous?
Well, the thing is, we can charge a rev for voting, and when you vote, we deploy your vote as the voter app anonymously.
Can you say again? When you deploy,
Yeah, you basically talk to the election app and give your vote to the election app, and it uses its permission to do the contract with your ticket.
And election app is like a contract.
What?
Election app is like a contract, right? Which.
Right, but it's not the election app has to be off chain in essence. If you can't connect the voter to the ticket. I mean, it could just be a public address or whatever, but I mean, in any case, you know, the election itself can sign the votes, and the individuals can check to see that their vote or their secret key is what they voted.
Yeah.
So it's both, you know, it provides. Yeah. So.
So you're saying that this one part must be outside of the blockchain, right?
And we could, you know, we could use a single user RChain node, our personal node, to generate the 1,000 secret keys. And then, you know, we have to write a script to email those to all the members. And then the voter app itself, which has a map of valid keys and their state, whether or not they voted on what, whatever. Timestamp, maybe, I don't know how we do timestamps. But, and then we have a tally contract that tallies up the votes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering if this is possible directly on the blockchain.
No.
Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, it can't be anonymous unless we go off chain.
Yeah.
Okay, the voter app has to, the voter app can actually validate the user Discord account with OAuth 2,
Yeah.
as well as, and then anonymously submit their vote.
Yeah.
We have a lot to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is an interesting problem. Yeah.
All right, guys. I enjoyed it. I'll see you on Discord.
See you.
Me too. Going. See you. Bye bye.